Welcome, and thank you for joining this ongoing journey. It occurs to me that I might emphasize that while I hope you might check in every week, you should feel completely comfortable joining whenever you have the time, the need, or are in the mood. I keep finding that from week to week, I am grateful to look forward to this break to breathe. It gives me the opportunity to pause and to reflect on the events of the last week, the anticipated unfolding of the week ahead, and to do a kind of mini self-check-in to ascertain, how am I doing? What might be bothering me or making me anxious? So before getting into the substance of today, let's just take a moment. Let's take that break to breathe. I think it's important. So let's take our meditative poses consciously and do the inventory of letting go of so many tensions and holdings in our bodies. I think that's where we express that's the connection. Well, it's one of the connections of mind and body, is that what's going on in our minds inevitably finds some kind of expression in our body. So let us let go of our tops of our heads, our hair, if we can imagine that, our ears, our jaws, our shoulders. The roll of the shoulders is always good, any time of day. Our hands that nervously hold on to any number of things. Let us let go of our tummies, our waists, our legs, ankles, feet and toes. Let's just let them all go for a moment. And as we do a last kind of run through, let's take that breath, filling up from the intake down our throats into our lungs, and imagining that the air is filling our heads, our arms, our tummies that we've now released so that they might take in the air. It's not exactly how the air works, we know that, but if we can imagine it, it helps us fill up. And when we are full in a different way than normally, because we're thinking about it and focusing on it, we could even hold it for a moment, just to enjoy the feeling and just to enjoy having our thoughts centered on something as simple as the breath filling up our bodies. That in and of itself is a kind of release, a kind of refresh. We're letting go of all the thoughts that might be weighing us down, of all the worries we might be carrying with us. Even of the joys, we just let go right now. We just are. We just want to be. We just want to breathe. So we inhale. And we might hold for a count of 4 or 5. And then release. And if you haven't yet closed your eyes or focused them softly, I invite you to do so. I think it's helpful. It's part of the closing off of the world around us, so that we might just take these few minutes to focus gently, lovingly, compassionately on the breath that fills our bodies and the wonder of our bodies that takes it in, holds it, and then releases with equal satisfaction. We began last week entirely grateful for the successful conclusion of the synagogue hostage situation in Colleyville, Texas. As the euphoric end of the crisis began to wear off, however, we found ourselves juggling many different emotions. There are many in our communities who find themselves feeling angry, confused, sad. Almost all of us are feeling a heightened sense of fear and wariness. Every Jewish organization in the country, I dare to say, has reviewed its security measures in the last week. And I am quite sure that a significant amount of money will be spent to help us all feel safe. The absolute randomness of these horrors makes us all vulnerable. Most of all, as we live our lives relatively normally, we are nevertheless aware of an underlying sense of unease. As Rabbi Angela Buchdahl shared in her sermon this week on Friday night, if you are a Jew in America and you are not feeling unsettled, then you are not paying attention. She continued, I'm unsettled because the world only has the most simplistic understanding of anti-Semitism. If someone says they hate Jews or they want to kill Jews, we call it anti-Semitism. But even educated people, the director of the FBI, do not recognize its far more insidious guise as the trope that Jews are all powerful and control everything. We saw how dangerous that age-old conspiracy theory can be. I'm unsettled because I saw firsthand that you cannot negotiate with a terrorist. And more people in our country and around the globe are captivated by terrifying, hateful ideologies which they value more than their own lives. I'm unsettled because Rabbi Citron Walker's kindness and humanity were used against him. He opened his doors to this man and gave him a cup of tea. This rabbi welcomes the stranger, and this is his reward. We have to protect ourselves. We cannot be naive. But I also know that if we only build fortresses around our sanctuaries and around our hearts, then he wins. I'm unsettled because I heard the terrifying voice of radical extremism filtered through the mind of a deranged person who was able to get a gun and then hold 4 people and an entire Jewish community hostage for 11 hours. I think of the ripple effects that this man set off and the countless resources that we will spend to prevent it from happening again. She ended her sermon by looking to the week's Torah portion, Yitro, Jethro, in which Moses' non-Jewish father-in-law tells Moses that he is not leading the Israelites to freedom alone. She concluded, this message is truly for all of us. None of us can do this alone. I would share with you a couple more somewhat random thoughts. I continue to be entirely impressed by Rabbi Charlie Sitfrin Walker's unfailing grace, deep humanity, and clear authenticity. He is not walking back any of his values, nor is he adopting any false airs of self-importance. Having led his Israelites to safety, having himself suffered trauma few of us can imagine, he is helping all of us find courage and hope in the midst of a new reality we might have previously hoped to ignore or deny. As a symbol of that courage and hope, I loved Deborah Lipstat's campaign this past week for Jews to show up in synagogue this past Shabbat. I think her effort was captured on Twitter as something like #ShowUpInShul. It belabors the obvious to say that part of what makes terrorism so terrifying is that it abides by no rules. There is no Geneva Convention, as it were, for terrorism. A crazed individual with a gun literally holds the lives of others hostage to his or her whim. Caring not at all about their own lives, there is no commonality upon which to appeal to the terrorist. As soon as a terrorist acts, they create chaos because they do not operate within any legal system of objective standards and expected behaviors. Civilization, societies, communities, countries cannot coexist with chaos. No coherent system can. The very first thing that God does to create the heaven and earth is to bring order out of chaos. The text says that the earth was tohu vavohu. The earth was a chaos, unformed, and on the chaotic water's face, there was darkness. There is darkness where chaos reigns. Judaism's detractors have made much of the accusation that we are a legalistic, heartless tradition. In many ways, Christianity was founded as a foil to that concept. Judaism, in fact, is a religion of law. The 613 commandments are laws, statutes directing us as to how to behave and how to live. There is a great deal of debate among the rabbis concerning the relative merits of justice and mercy when administering the law. But those debates are based upon the premise that adherence to the law is at the foundation of our very existence. Nature may abhor a vacuum, but Judaism abhors chaos. We may preach kindness and compassion, goodness and righteousness, but without the laws prescribing how we are to live, even the best of intentions is overwhelmed by the selfish desires of the human heart. This week's Torah portion, in fact, addresses the issue of how we live our lives in the day-to-day reality of having neighbors, owning property, sustaining injury, and other civil and criminal regulations, as well as laws dealing with worship and religious practices. The structure of laws that regulate a society are an organizing principle for that society. Part of what makes this time in our country and our world so difficult is the perception that we are seeing the subversion of law for partisan ends. Jews have always been protected by the laws of this country, the same laws that protect African Americans, Asian Americans, Latinos, the full-blown attempt to curtail the rights of others is not good for the Jews. We are wary. We are watchful. We are on alert. And yet, we have often been in situations where we celebrated our lives with one eye watching our backs. There is a duality in Jewish life that we have learned to negotiate, learned to straddle almost. I, for one, am not ready to write an obituary for America. So let us take another moment to breathe deeply, to prepare ourselves, to renew, to refresh, to return to the work of this world that needs us, needs our laws, our faith, our optimism in the ultimate goodness of humanity. Let us readopt our positions if we've let them go over the past few minutes. And let us take that breath. Giving thanks for the freedom we do enjoy and for the protection of the law enforcement agencies that went immediately into action with no hesitation. Let us give thanks for a community that is in solidarity with each other, for a country whose history is noble, even if its reality has never quite lived up to its ideals. Let us give thanks for the breath in our bodies that allows us to look forward to making those ideals more real and more alive. By way of closing, and I invite you to continue breathing for as long as it's comfortable. But to formally close, I would share with you these words of editor and writer Sarah Wildman, who wrote about the experience of her daughter, Orly, becoming a bat mitzvah on the same day as the terrorist was creating chaos in Colleyville. She concluded her article in this way. Orly's middle name is Chaim, for my grandfather who fled Nazi-occupied Vienna at age 26. He was known for his knack for reinvention and unmitigated joy, even in the face of unimaginable loss. Upon my bat mitzvah, some 30-odd years before Orly's, he sent me a letter. Now that I was coming of age in the Jewish community, he offered the words Moses says to Joshua as Joshua assumes the mantle of leadership. They are words meant to gird oneself in the face of challenge and responsibility, of obstacles and uncertainty. It is a command not to back down, but to forge ahead. And so he did. And he did not write Mazel Tov or congratulations, but Chazak ve'ematz, have strength and be of good courage. The expression is not an end point, but a beginning. Let us take those words to heart. Chazak ve'ematz, have strength and be courageous. Today, tomorrow, this week, and into our future. May it be a good one for all of us. God bless. See you next time.